Hook secret. For more than 40 years, the world has believed it knew Tom Cruise. To millions of fans, he is the fearless action star who hangs from airplanes, climbs skyscrapers, and dominates the box office like few actors ever have. To his critics, he is something entirely different: a mysterious celebrity, a controversial figure, a man surrounded by rumors, headlines, and endless speculation. But what if both sides are wrong? What if the Tom Cruise seen by the public for decades is not the real Tom Cruise at all? Because behind the cameras, away from the red carpets and media headlines, there is another version of the man that most people never get to see. A version described not by journalists or internet opinions, but by the people who have actually worked beside him. Directors who trusted him with $100 million productions. Crew members who spent years on film sets with him. Actors who shared some of the biggest moments of their careers alongside him. And strangely, many of them tell a story that sounds nothing like the one the public has been hearing for years. So why has Tom Cruise become one of the most misunderstood people in Hollywood? How did one of the world's biggest movie stars end up trapped between fame and public perception? And what does the real man behind the Hollywood legend actually look like? To find the answer, we have to go back to the beginning, long before the blockbuster movies, the global fame, and the image that the world thinks it knows today. Part 2. Childhood and Early Struggles. Long before he became one of the most recognizable faces in the world, Tom Cruise was simply a boy trying to find his place in a life filled with uncertainty. Born Thomas Cruise Mapother IV on July 3, 1962, in Syracuse, New York, his childhood was far from the glamorous image many people associate with him today. His family struggled financially, forcing them to move from place to place throughout his early years. Stability was something young Tom rarely experienced. But financial hardship was only part of the challenge. Years later, Cruise would openly speak about having dyslexia, a learning disorder that made reading and studying incredibly difficult. In school, he often felt frustrated and isolated. While other children seemed to learn naturally, he found himself fighting a daily battle just to keep up. As if that wasn't enough, his family life was complicated. Cruise has described his father as a person who could be unpredictable and intimidating. Rather than feeling safe and secure, he often lived with uncertainty at home. These experiences left deep marks that would follow him into adulthood. By the time he was a teenager, his parents had separated. His mother, Mary Lee, worked tirelessly to support the family. Watching her struggle to provide for her children taught Tom an important lesson. Nothing in life would be handed to him. Despite the difficulties, he searched for something that could give him confidence. For a while, sports became his escape. Wrestling offered discipline and purpose, but an injury ended those hopes. He even considered becoming a Catholic priest at one point, spending time in a seminary before eventually realizing that his future lay elsewhere. At that stage of his life, there was no sign that he would one day become a Hollywood icon. He was not the most popular student. He was not a child star. He was not surrounded by opportunity. What he did possess, however, was determination. The same determination that helped him overcome dyslexia, adapt to constant change, and survive a difficult childhood would soon lead him toward an unexpected path, one that would change his life forever. Part 3. The Road to Success. Tom Cruise's journey into acting did not begin with a grand plan. In fact, it started almost by accident. During his late teenage years, he developed an interest in performing and decided to pursue acting professionally. It was a bold decision for someone with no industry connections, no famous relatives, and very little money. But for the first time in his life, he had found something that gave him a clear sense of purpose. At the age of 18, Cruise moved to New York City with a dream and a deadline. He reportedly gave himself 10 years to make it as an actor. If it didn't work out, he would find another path. As it turned out, he wouldn't need 10 years. His first roles were small. He appeared in minor productions and struggled like countless young actors trying to break into Hollywood. Yet, there was something about him that casting directors noticed immediately. He possessed an unusual intensity. Even in small scenes, he seemed determined to prove that he belonged. In 1981, he landed a role in Endless Love, followed by a larger opportunity in Taps. While neither performance made him an overnight superstar, Industry insiders began paying attention. Cruise wasn't simply another handsome young actor. He had ambition, discipline, and a willingness to outwork everyone around him. The real breakthrough came in 1983 with Risky Business. The film transformed him from a promising newcomer into one of Hollywood's most exciting young stars. Audiences connected with his charisma, confidence, and energy. The iconic scene of Cruise dancing in a dress shirt and socks became one of the most memorable moments of the decade. Suddenly, Hollywood had a new leading man. But success brought pressure. Many actors achieve one-hit movie and disappear. Cruise understood that his next decisions could define the rest of his career. Instead of chasing easy paychecks, he focused on building a reputation. He worked relentlessly, studied the craft, and sought projects that would challenge him. Directors quickly discovered that he approached every role with extraordinary commitment. Then came the film that changed everything. In 1986, Top Gun exploded onto movie screens around the world. Cruise's portrayal of Pete Maverick Mitchell turned him into a global phenomenon. He was no longer just a rising actor. He had become one of the most recognizable stars on Earth. The movie's success was staggering. Fans admired his confidence, his charm, and his fearless screen presence. Yet what most people didn't see was the work happening behind the scenes. Cruise was developing a reputation for preparation, professionalism, and an almost obsessive dedication to excellence. While the public saw overnight success, the reality was very different. The boy who once struggled with dyslexia and uncertainty had spent years preparing for this moment. Every setback, every rejection, and every difficult experience from his childhood had shaped the relentless drive that now pushed him forward. And as his fame continued to grow, so did the gap between the public image of Tom Cruise and the person he truly was. Part 4: Fame, Relationships, and Life at the Top. By the late 1980s, Tom Cruise was no longer simply a successful actor. He had become a cultural phenomenon. Movie studios wanted him. Directors wanted him. Audiences around the world bought tickets simply because his name appeared on a poster. Few actors in Hollywood history have managed to reach that level of influence, and even fewer have sustained it for decades. Yet with greater success came greater scrutiny. As Cruise's career continued to soar through films such as Rain Man, Born on the 4th of July, A Few Good Men, Jerry Maguire, and later the Mission Impossible franchise, the public became increasingly fascinated with his personal life. His relationships often attracted as much attention as his movies. His marriage to actress Mimi Rogers introduced him to a new chapter of his life and brought intense media attention. After their divorce, Cruise married actress Nicole Kidman in 1990. Together, they became one of Hollywood's most famous couples. To the public, they appeared to have everything. They were talented, successful, admired, and constantly photographed on red carpets around the world. They adopted 2 children and built what seemed like a dream life. But as often happens in Hollywood, the reality behind the cameras was more complicated than the image seen by millions. When Cruise and Kidman announced their separation in 2001, many fans were shocked. Questions quickly filled newspapers and television programs. Speculation spread faster than facts, and people began forming opinions without truly knowing what had happened behind closed doors. Years later, Cruise entered another highly publicized relationship with actress Katie Holmes. Their marriage once again became headline news across the globe. Every appearance, every interview, and every personal decision seemed to become public property. For most people, fame means recognition. For Tom Cruise, fame often meant living under a microscope. While audiences watched his films, the media frequently focused on his personal life. Every gesture was analyzed, every comment was debated, every relationship became a story. Yet amid all the attention, one thing remained remarkably consistent. Those who worked with Cruise often described the same qualities: relentless discipline, professionalism, and an unwavering commitment to filmmaking. Directors repeatedly praised his work ethic. Crew members spoke about his respect for everyone on set, regardless of their position. Co-stars frequently mentioned his generosity and willingness to help others succeed. This created a strange contradiction. The public image of Tom Cruise was becoming increasingly controversial, while many of the people who actually knew him described someone very different. As the years passed, that gap would only grow larger. And eventually, a series of controversies, misunderstandings, and personal challenges would push the world's perception of Tom Cruise further away from the man many insiders claimed he truly was. Part 5: The Controversies, Misunderstandings, and the Truth. Few people know. By the mid 2000s, Tom Cruise had reached a level of fame that few people in history ever experience. But it was also during this period that his public image began to change dramatically. For years, audiences had viewed him as Hollywood's golden boy. Suddenly, headlines became less focused on his movies and more focused on controversy. Television appearances, personal beliefs, and his connection to Scientology became constant subjects of public discussion. Every interview seemed to generate another wave of debate. Every public statement was dissected by critics and commentators. The situation reached a point where many people felt they knew exactly who Tom Cruise was. But there was one problem. Most of them had never actually met him. The version of Tom Cruise that appeared in headlines gradually became larger than reality itself. Stories, assumptions, and speculation began shaping public opinion. Over time, many people stopped separating the celebrity from the human being behind the celebrity. Yet while the media focused on controversy, another story was unfolding behind the scenes. Directors continued hiring him. Major studios continued trusting him with massive productions. Actors continued wanting to work alongside him. Why? Because the people who spent months working with Cruise often described a completely different person. Many spoke about his extraordinary work ethic. Some described him as one of the most prepared actors they had ever encountered. Others recalled how he treated crew members with the same respect he gave directors and producers. Perhaps the most revealing detail was something rarely discussed in the headlines. Tom Cruise genuinely loves filmmaking. For him, movies were never simply a business. They were a passion. This passion became especially clear during the Mission Impossible films. While many stars relied heavily on stunt doubles, Cruise repeatedly pushed himself to perform dangerous sequences personally. He climbed the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. He hung from the side of an aircraft during takeoff. He learned complex skills that most actors would never attempt. Critics sometimes called it obsession. His colleagues often called it dedication. And perhaps that distinction explains why Tom Cruise remains such a misunderstood figure. People see the celebrity. They see the headlines. They see the controversies. But those closest to the work often see something else entirely. A man who has spent decades pursuing excellence with an intensity few can match. The question is not whether Tom Cruise has made mistakes. Like every human being, he has. The more interesting question is whether the world ever truly took the time to understand him beyond the headlines. Because behind the fame, the rumors, and the public image may be a person far different from the one many people think they know. Part 6: Life Today, Legacy, and the Real Tom Cruise. Today, more than 4 decades after he first arrived in Hollywood, Tom Cruise remains one of the last true movie stars. The entertainment industry has changed dramatically since the early days of his career. Trends have come and gone. Countless celebrities have risen to fame and disappeared, yet Cruise has managed to remain relevant across multiple generations. In an era dominated by streaming platforms and social media, he continues to draw audiences to theaters around the world. That achievement alone places him in rare company. But perhaps his greatest accomplishment is not the number of films he has made or the billions of dollars his movies have earned. It is the fact that he never stopped chasing excellence. Even today, Cruise continues to approach filmmaking with the same determination that defined him as a young actor. While many of his peers have slowed down, he remains committed to delivering experiences that audiences will remember long after leaving the theater. And this brings us back to the question we asked at the beginning. Who is the real Tom Cruise? Is he the controversial celebrity described by countless headlines? Is he the mysterious public figure who has fascinated the media for decades? Or is he the hardworking performer described by directors, actors, and crew members who have spent years working alongside him? The truth is probably more complicated than any single headline could ever capture. Tom Cruise is neither a perfect hero nor a villain. He is a human being. a man shaped by a difficult childhood, driven by extraordinary ambition, and determined to prove himself again and again despite living under constant public scrutiny. That may be the real reason he has been misunderstood for so many years. Most people know the image, very few know the person. And perhaps that is the price of becoming one of the most famous individuals on Earth. When future generations look back on Tom Cruise, they will undoubtedly remember the blockbuster films, the breathtaking stunts, and the records he shattered. But behind all of those achievements was a man searching for purpose, pushing himself beyond limits, and trying to leave something meaningful behind. They were more than just a star. They were a human being, struggling to be seen. Maybe we loved the character, but we never really knew the person inside. What do you think? Has Tom Cruise been misunderstood for decades, or has the public seen the real person all along? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more fascinating journeys into the lives behind Hollywood's biggest legends.